INFOWARS.com or go to their website, mediasolidarity.com. Well, we're not done yet. We're going to be back, hopefully, with a amazing debate between another Sandy Hook researcher and somebody else who also calls himself a conspiracy theorist but says Sandy Hook did happen the way all those officials that are hiding all the information say it did. So stay tuned. Don't go away.
The Molon Lave Silver Coin, certified by the Provident Mint. This 1-ounce silver round is 0.999% fine silver, inspired by the legendary Spartan king Leonidas and his refusal to lay down arms in defiance of Emperor Xerxes. Molon Lave, that's Greek for come and take it. This is available now at InfoWarsStore.com. Act now as supplies are limited. And don't forget, free shipping and a free gift. That's InfoWarsStore.com.
This is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. Purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.
Welcome back to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Thank you for joining us. We're about to have an extended interview, I believe. And if you remember last segment, we were talking with two documentary filmmakers for the documentary We Need to Talk About Sandy Hook. I'm now joined by two individuals who are both on the opposite ends of the Sandy Hook spectrum. One is a writer for American Free Press, and his name is Keith Johnson. He, in fact, there's an article here that says, AFP's Keith Johnson, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but not on Sandy Hook. The other individual is a man who we've had on the show several times, Wolfgang Halbig, who runs SandyHookJustice.com. Gentlemen, how are you both doing today?
Good, Ron.
So,
yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, Keith, I'm going to give you the first, I guess, the opening salvo. You contacted me, and you were explaining some things, and you said this is some really, you're treading in some deep water here. So, in so many words. So, explain to me what your position is on Sandy Hook, and then we'll let Mr. Halbig respond.
Okay, well, yeah, we know that our government is involved in a lot of nefarious things, including false flag attacks, disinformation is spread. I'm a conspiracy theorist, like you just introduced me as one. I do believe that these things do happen, but Sandy Hook doesn't qualify as that. There's not one shred of evidence to suggest that there was a hoax. Quite the opposite, quite the contrary. There's overwhelming direct evidence which proves that Adam Lanza was the sole perpetrator of this killing. And what I'm concerned about is not just the fact that we have 26 women and children at Sandy Hook who were slaughtered. These were my fellow Americans who were slaughtered, and they need to be honored for the lives they live, not cast in some delusional fantasy someone has that this is a conspiracy that their parents were involved in. No. The other concern that I have, a secondary concern besides that, is that I believe that the real hoax is the hoax being perpetrated against the truth movement. I believe that this has been spun into a conspiracy theory to bring discredit to the truth movement. And I see so much irresponsibility out there amongst individuals like James F. Tracy, James Fetzer, both professors from taxpayer-funded universities who are putting out deliberate disinformation, and when it's brought to their attention, they don't even change it. And I mean, I did an investigation on one of these people who did this documentary, quote unquote, We Need to Talk About Sandy Hook. I did an investigation into his website and found that the person who's collecting donations for it is a Captain LaShawn Bush of the U.S. Army Cyber Command. So this website is an IP phishing website which is collecting information on patriots, on people who have interest in these kinds of things. That's what I believe to be the case here. As a matter of fact, this is confirmed. I was contacted by 2 lieutenant colonels who grilled me. I don't know what the result of that investigation is, but I mean, if you even look at this new documentary that came out, it's very slick. It's very slick. When I say slick, I don't mean that it has real, groundbreaking information. It's just the same old speculation and debunk theories. But the production values of it are just amazing. Now, you compare that to some of us who are involved in the debunking of these theories. We have crude videos we put out. There's only 2 people who are actually actively debunking it, and that's myself and another individual by the name of C.W. Wade. So that's my stance. I've been called a government shield. Just go ahead and look at all of my articles for American Free Press, pro-gun, pro-liberty. You find any indication there that I'm a gun grabber, government shill, and I'll hang my hat up. So,
no one's accusing you of that. No one's accusing you of that, Keith. But I do want to say this: after Sandy Hook, it seemed like the government did come into line, and the people involved in that were coming out saying it's time to go after guns. It's time to seriously look at what we're going on, which leads to these gun lists, these registration lists, which always leads to confiscation. Well, the thing is if you look, Rob, in 2013, 2/3 of the gun laws that were enacted were pro-gun, okay, to loosen restrictions. So what happens is anytime there's a school shooting like this, you're going to see the gun grabbers come out, liberals like what's the ex-mayor of New York, Bloomberg. Okay, yeah.
I've written about extensively. Yeah, his group comes out wanting to grab guns, but there's as much, if not more, pushback against the gun control lobbies by good, decent Second Amendment loving Americans who say no. And that's why any thought that this would be some kind of thing to confiscate firearms is ludicrous for them to think that they could pull something off like that and be able to get that kind of result. All right, well, let's let Mr. Halbig respond to that. What do you have to say? You've been investigating this for a while. What are your conclusions that you've come up with?
Well, first of all, Rob, I got to make sure I'm talking to the right Keith Johnson, because I'm just looking here. Somebody today emailed me something that he stated, and it's an email that goes to Deanna Spingola, works for American Free Press, Dave Gahary works for American Free Press, Paul Angel, Chris Petterick, Michael Collins Piper. And this is the statement headline: Wolfgang Halbig is a fraud. He calls me a school resource officer. The guy you're talking about, Rob, has no clue as to what my life is like, what I've done in public service for the last 36 years. Wherever he's getting his information, well, I'll tell you what, he needs to come to my house and let's have a conversation, because he is so wrong. For him to call me a fraud and a liar, now let me tell you something, that's defamation, that's slander, that's libel, and he better get ready. So now my comments to him: those researchers have dedicated their life in trying to take a look at Sandy Hook for what it is. There are so many items within that police report. It's a data dump. It's the worst report that was ever written, and it's not stated by Wolfgang Halbig. This is Mayor Jackson of Hamden, Connecticut, the chairman of this Governor Malloy Sandy Hook Commission on the Advisory Commission. He calls this the worst data dump. Number one, they're given a redacted report. Can you imagine? You're the commission. You are about to make recommendations that's going to change the gun laws in Connecticut. It's going to change mental health. It's going to change the First Amendment rights. And they get a redacted report. They don't even get to see the truth. They never, ever got to see the autopsy report of all of those 20 children and 7 adults. Now, how in the world can an advisory commission, Rob, in all fairness, come out, make solid recommendations that's going to affect the whole country, not just Connecticut? So if we're going to talk tonight, let's only talk about the facts. only about the facts, and let's talk about the Newtown police. Let's talk about how they responded, and I'm ready to go.
All right, yeah, and I agree. Let's talk about what happened on that day, what we do know, and then, yeah, there's a lot of speculation out there, but I think the reason you have all this speculation, Keith, and I think you will agree, people do not trust the government, bottom line. People don't trust what the information they put out. They don't trust the conclusions they come up with. They're just ready to say, no, we don't believe you. We're going to look for alternative solutions. And you've got a myriad. You type in Sandy Hook conspiracy, it's hundreds of millions of videos. Everybody and their mother out there is looking at this from a different angle, and they're all bringing their collective expertise together, where not each person is a doctorate or a scientist out there, but by people pooling their knowledge. And I think that's the great thing about the internet. Yeah, you are going to get some, you're always going to get the crazies out there, but you're going to get that in anything. But the amount of information that has been combed over, I think is pretty, definitely demands some questions and definitely demands some answers. And I don't really think we're getting that from the people of Connecticut. Go ahead, Keith.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, well, Mr. Albig says he wants to talk about the facts. First, he brings up some email saying that I called him a fraud and a phony. Well, I'll say this right now. Mr. Albig, you are a fraud, and you can go ahead and sue me for defamation or libel. If you can find an attorney to do that, you go ahead and do it. But we have caught you in so many lies, it's pathetic. You are not a law enforcement. You don't have significant law enforcement experience. Even on your website, you admit that you have 1 year as a ticket-writing Florida highway patrolman. Okay, you've gone on the Deanna Spingola show and said specifically that you were a homicide investigator in the past. That's a lie. When I brought it up in our debate that we had, you said, well, anytime you pull, and I'm just paraphrasing, anytime you pull a dead body out of a car, you're investigating a homicide. So you don't even know what a homicide is, Mr. Halbig. And you're going out there. You're going out there. Okay, you're going out there saying that you're an expert on Columbine. I've looked at the Columbine reports, even the governor's report, where it has a list of all of the people that they consulted. I don't see your name there. And I've asked you specifically many times to please give us the information on when you were consulted, because so many people out there believe that you're an expert on Columbine and active shooter events, and we haven't seen that. You have a training certificate you put up that's a 3.5-hour course from the National Incident Management Systems, NIMS, 3.5 hours that anybody can get. That's not the requirement to be an incident commander in an active shooter event. But yet, you're out there telling everyone that they should listen to you. You're the source. I don't go out there and talk about my limited law enforcement experience, which actually is more recent and longer than yours, because it's been so long. Back in the early 80s, it's been so long. Things have changed since then. And you say you want to talk about facts, and Rob, you said something about there are experts out there making videos. There's no experts out there. I talk to experts. These people, I would like to see one person with some credible law enforcement experience come forward and say, I pat Mr. Albig on the back and say, yeah, there is something wrong here. Why don't we see that? Why don't we see medical personnel, active duty people right now coming forward and endorsing Mr. Albig? We don't see that. We heard that he was going to have these people come forward, but they never have. I contact people. I contacted a clinical psychologist and interviewed him. You can find all of these interviews on my website, NewtownPostExaminer.com. I also, Mr. Albig, contacted a glass expert, and I ran by his, your theory that nobody could go through that hole in the broken glass. He said that's ridiculous. I can read you excerpts from real experts, which you haven't even produced. You've collected, what, $40,000, and you can't even give us one expert to substantiate your claims? Ridiculous. Now, people always say, well, what's your proof that children died, and what's your proof that this happened? Go read the report. Go read the nearly 7,000-page report. Look at all the interviews out there, people who have given statements, and the burden of proof is on you. If you're making the allegation that these people are lying, prove it. We're talking about sworn police officers. We're talking about people who are still there working in Newtown. You can call right now, and you can contact Officer Newt, he'll pick up the phone, maybe not today, but every time I've called, I've talked to Sergeant Colburn, I've talked to Newt, I've talked to various people. They're still active duty there, okay? So these weren't actors in some kind of Mossad plot that Professor Fetzer believes. I mean, he's changed his story so many times. I mean, the burden of proof is on you, Mr. Halbig, and you haven't proven anything. You keep saying that you're going to file these lawsuits. I mean, you went on Michael Rivera's show on the 13th and said in 2 weeks